Let's join Chart Live, a pro-social space punk band, for our last session of the day. When the band plays live and music goes on sale, the audience can participate in making the music, and the proceeds are used to plant trees. Founder Dan Morrell has 30 years of climate change contribution from which to draw stories.
How lovely, and thank you so much. Hello, everybody. So we're going to talk about Chant Live, the band, and a little bit of my history, which got us here. The last speaker made a very accurate point. The antidote to anxiety is action, and mass reforestation is probably one of the best things we can do. My background is I coined the phrase carbon neutral and offset. I've been involved in this area since 1988. I've been an advisor at Downing Street. I've addressed the United Nations General Assembly in full session on forestry and climate. I was an advisor to IOSIS on small island states. I've got a building engineering background on green tech in buildings, and I founded Carbon Gold, the biochar company. So a little bit of work in agriculture, and a lot of forests have been planted, but my passion is music. We need cultural change, and one of the most effective ways of getting cultural change is to use culture, which is the idea of the Chant Live band. And we are now remarkably, I was pinched myself, but we're a main stage festival act with great musicians, and we put microphones into the audience and loop them in and give them a voice. So it's you are the show rather than us, and we percuss and go up and down octaves, and when you say what you feel, and it's great, we make music with it there and then. And that's been really popular as a tester. And then we have the Chant app coming out, which is part of our space genre, a situationist digital artwork. And here you can hear a live show profile of our band or one of our tracks, and then you get into the track and you get given the opportunity to give your voice. You upload your voice. Here we go. We're going to upload our voices. Yo, I'm on the Youth Climate Network, and it's ever such fun to be here, and I'm going to plant a tree with my voice. Yeah, boom. And so that we then give a profile, bish, bash, bosh, and then we upload it into the track, and you get a track back where you're actually mixed in, and brilliantly, you get to see on the app where your trees have been planted. I'll turn that down a bit, sorry. That's the new Chant project. So it engages people, and we're creating biodiversity primarily that also absorbs carbon. It's a biodiversity initiative. And I have a little film which talks a little bit climate solutions, this whole thing about, you know, we've gone from denial to despair, and there are a suite of 7 multi-gigaton, certainly gigaton level of global solutions that I've been personally involved with over the years. So if we could play video number 1, and I talk about some of the details of how we can do things. So the story of how climate change and carbon, how I came up with carbon neutral, it used to be called carbon sequestration. In '88, I read a report by Hansen, one of the NASA scientists, and I realized that CO2 was a major problem. So I thought of primary school biology. Trees change CO2 into oxygen and wood. And I went and sequestered Maureen's carbon from the Castle Kerry pet shop when I was taking my dog for a walk, and planted some trees around the Castle Kerry primary school. And that's how the whole movement got going. And I thought, my God, carbon sequestration is a terrible word. What's a better word? So carbon neutral came in. So anyway, Maureen's tree, that's now growing on the Castle Kerry railway path. It's a great big tree. And amazingly, Lord Nick Stern, who wrote the UK government Stern report, I told him about it because I met him in the corridor before he opened the Doha COP, and he opened the COP, the World Earth Summit, celebrating Maureen's tree, which was very funny. But then the Rolling Stones went on to become carbon neutral a few years later, which everybody was quite happy about. Hi, I'm Dan Morrell, founder of the Chant Live band. We need cultural change, and the best way to change culture is to use culture. I coined the phrase carbon neutral, and my projects have planted 3.3 million hectares of forest globally, protecting 475 IUCN registered species and benefiting 840,000 people. There is no single golden bullet to climate change. So today I'd like to talk you through 7 low-hanging fruit multi-gigaton solutions. These are 7 areas that I've had personal engagement with. Start with forests and biodiversity, industrial, political, legal, social behavioural, agricultural and buildings efficiency. These 7 solutions form my personal philosophy of how we can resolve the issues of global warming and place our environment on a path to a healthier future for us all. The recreation and preservation of natural forests is one of the most effective things that we can do. Trees turn CO2, carbon dioxide, into oxygen and wood, and by planting 1 trillion plus trees globally, we could reabsorb up to 20% of our greenhouse gas emissions. Through rewilding, natural regeneration, and the mass replanting of indigenous tree species to the local habitat is one of the best things we can do. The biodiversity benefits of natural forests are well documented too. They provide habitat for many endangered species, offer water catchment to mitigate flooding, and support vital pollination and seed dispersal. Furthermore, 50 to 70,000 species of plants are utilised for medicines and protect human health, and flourishing forests contribute economically through ecotourism. Forests and biodiversity are both a very significant contributor to reducing CO2 and a vital part of the ecosystem that human beings both thrive within and cannot live without. We currently pump out about 38 gigatons of CO2 per year, but it's estimated that over 1 gigaton comes from badly tuned buildings. As buildings age, engineers usually refurbish them by replacing heating, cooling and ventilation systems with new versions of the same old technologies that were fitted in when the buildings were delivered 20 years ago. However, installing the latest technologies, new versions of new equipment, can reduce CO2 emissions by up to 40 to 60% within an existing refurbishment budget. When you add renewable energy solutions, recycling and other green efficiencies to the mixture, the cost of running the buildings can be reduced by 40 to 60%, and the CO2 emissions can be reduced by 60% even before the suite of renewable energy technologies are installed. Such technologies could be solar, evaporative cooling, heat pumps, etc. Prairie land captures around 40 to 50 tonnes of carbon per hectare, but intensive agriculture reduces this to 7 to 8 tonnes. Changing to sustainable agricultural practices can reabsorb significant amounts of carbon dioxide and create a healthier, more sustainable food source. One of the ways we can help soil once again soak up gigatons of greenhouse gas is by using biochar. Biochar is a technology to improve soil fertility, perfected by indigenous people of South America over 500 years ago. They took the under canopy of the wood, baked it in the heart of the forest, turned it into charcoal in kilns, and then buried it back in the soil. This was how they fed huge populations. We can do the same. A single gram of activated charcoal can have the same surface area of 2 tennis courts. This creates a 5-star hotel for all the good stuff in the soil, the mycorrhizal fungal biota, a place to live. This massively improves soil fertility and can soak up carbon dioxide at the same time. Well, the average European citizen generates around 15 tonnes of CO2 per year. In America, that's up to 30 tonnes. It's really easy to reduce that by at least 1 tonne simply by being more conscious of your personal impact and shifting your behaviour just slightly. 1 by 1, tonne by tonne is the slogan we'll be using to encourage us to do just this. There's 7 billion people in the world and 6 billion of us can't do much about it. But the other billion, that's us, can easily reduce our personal input, our personal output by 1 tonne. Recycling rubbish, turning off lights, air conditioning, unplugging chargers, buying energy efficient equipment, food shopping from local farm shops. These are not difficult savings for everyone. They just require each of us to think and behave a little more consciously. And that would result in another gigaton of savings per annum. Imagine a world where oil companies paid for the cost of cleaning up global warming. This will not only be possible, it would emulate the cases against big tobacco that won billions in damages in the 90s. Class action lawsuits have already started in America. If it can be legally proven that big oil has misled investors about the costs of climate change damage, then the directors of the business are responsible for this breach of fiduciary duty, the obligation of directors to return benefits to investors, and the losses would be criminal negligence on part of the oil companies. Once this can be determined, the next stage in the litigation strategy would be to sue oil companies for actual damages. Every city, state or country that erects flood defences due to rising sea levels would have a claim against in such cases, meaning the potential losses to oil would be monumentally huge. The mere threat of this might be enough to force the fossil fuel industry to change to renewable energy companies. Just imagine the resulting benefits in CO2 reductions if these industries are compelled to go green. We're in the third climate emergency within the lifetime of most people. Encouragingly, the first two were resolved. The hole in the ozone layer repaired by the Montreal Accord and the Chicago sulfur dioxide and nitrous oxide trading systems reduced acid rain, so we don't hear about them anymore. Many gigatons of CO2 reductions can also be created by political will, but that political will has to be generated by public pressure. Politicians were compelled to solve the ozone and acid rain problem. If we could compel politicians to make emissions reduction targets legally binding, we would have a real chance of avoiding catastrophic global warming. In the past, the UN-sponsored COP summits like Kyoto and Paris have failed because they have been ambitions, not legal obligations. Now we must work together to compel politicians to effect political change, make targets legally binding, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions by many gigatons per annum. Large corporations have a huge global responsibility to make change. Organisations such as the Carbon Disclosure Project, CDP, have encouraged corporations to disclose their CO2 outputs for nearly 2/3 of the world's economy. The next step is for businesses to effect committed programs of reductions through simple changes like mandating electrical vehicles in goods distribution, switching to renewable energy tariffs, sourcing sustainable supply in the supply chain, and seeking out environmentally sound raw materials. Industry can have a massive impact in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Furthermore, non-avoidable emissions from industry can be balanced by the protection and planting of natural forest. Well, thank you. So that's an area that I've had personal interaction with, and combined, it's very optimistic that we can get gigatons of solutions, and these are all non-heavy duty technical fixes. These all can be done quickly and at scale. So that's, I think, a cultural imperative. And if we all push our politicians and we work towards mass reforestation and figure out how to get buildings more efficiently tuned, we can really have a good crack at tackling climate change with the low-hanging fruit that's around. The 7 causes are the 7 causes of the music that we're creating that should get people interact. The 7 causes of chant and the 7 things we need to do to solve climate. Well, thank you. Live performance is a very important part of engaging audiences, especially youth culture. And so with the Chant app, we're the first band to use it. And then we're working with and got commitments from many other headline talents. And hopefully, having experimented with ourselves, we'll start to get this as an industry project, where people can actually actively engage in their forests by actually planting trees with their voice and singing trees to life. If you could play the next track, that would be really helpful. that video, Icarus, when we do gigs, we create land art. So at Harsel and Worth in Bruton, without permission, but they have a barley field, and we created that Icarian crop circle and landed a heart-shaped 12.5 million-year-old meteorite into the center. And then the Dalai Lama was blessing Glastonbury Festival, and we held it by him and photographed it as a trope, as an art trope to our engagement with playing the gig at the festival that time. So creating culture and art. And then subsequently, I got into a competition with NASA, and actually I think anybody could have entered, but I got my name attached to a memory card that went into the Parker Solar Probe. So we're a space punk band, and we've actually got our name on a NASA probe that's going in and out of the sun's corona at 440,000 miles an hour, reaching 1,000,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So the fastest and hottest object in human history. So the message of the song is, don't let anybody ever tell you you're going to burn your wings by flying too high. We just did it and got to the sun. And Icarus Resolved is about creating renewable energy, such as solar systems back here on Earth. So moving on, the next film is Oil, which is obviously a climate change cartoon. It was taken from an old 50s Shell public domain cartoon for, I think it was a trade show in Chicago in the 40s. But anyway, we've edited it up and put the climate message in. So please enjoy Oil. needless to say there too much about it, but that's about consumption and society and overconsumption and people from Mars coming down and finding oil on Earth and going back to Mars to go and maybe get oil there. But we're looking to create humor around engagement as well, and it's important to keep a light frame of mind around climate sometimes because of the doom and gloom. And as anxiety becomes action and people can do something positive, hopefully we can get a bit of cultural change. The next film is Drive, which is again about the car industry and its effect on the environment, which we again took from public domain footage and have edited up as a film about driving cars. Thank you. And I thought maybe if we just take a little break, we've got 15 minutes left. So we could always do some Q&As if anybody's interested in any question about the origin of carbon neutral or buildings engineering. I'll be more than happy to chat. So if anybody's got any questions, just fire them in. So popular culture as a way of engaging people at scale has been proven over the years to be a great way of creating change. And we've had a few false starts over the years. I think there were a great move towards very sound environmentalism as mission music back in the noughties and people in the 70s or the 60s with the Vietnam movement and whatever. There's always an element of cultural change that can come from the artistic side of things. And artists often can have a very powerful role to play if they can get ideas over to people effectively and quickly. I mean, obviously it's a problem if you've got great big rock stars standing on stages telling us how to live our lives and finger wagging about, well, you've got to do this and that, whilst they're driving around or they're flying their private jets. So we've got to be very careful about how we get talent to communicate, but it's a difficult arena, but done effectively, it can really force change. And I think the idea of integrity is one of the most powerful things that one can engage with if you're doing real things for the real reasons. So putting on events to celebrate climate change like Live Earth would have been a bit of a problem, but tying into existing events that are already going that can stream out and actually communicate with kids about the benefits of doing something can be very, very useful. So I think one of the interesting things I found is now going back to the forests that have been created, like Glastonbury Festival, it went carbon neutral, and we have 5 forests locally to where I live in Compton Dundon in Somerset, right in the Vale of Avalon, and we've got a forest nearby that I planted in 1997. And now it's a beautiful forest. And Michael Eavis let us have a stand at the festival, and everybody came and bought a tree and or paid for a tree, and we went and planted it there, and that made the festival carbon neutral. And it's a real nice legacy to be able to go back and look at these forests and engage with them. The Rolling Stones went carbon neutral. There is a Ronnie Wood in Argentina. And there is a Sex Pistols Filthy Furious forest on the verge of the M25 near Dagenham. And Leo DiCaprio, Joe Strummer was the world's first carbon neutral citizen who I met at Glastonbury, and he became he would turn up and really promote the idea. And then DiCaprio in America, I met his mum, and she then persuaded him to meet with me, and he became the US's first carbon neutral citizen. And so 20 years ago, we've now got a beautiful macaw sanctuary in Chiapas, Mexico, where there was a denuded forest, and we used agroforestry and permaculture techniques and engaged with the local people, so they got income from their forest. And now it's a macaw sanctuary, a wildlife sanctuary, and an agro forest. So there are really positive things that we can do. So I think we can play the next film, which is not so much environmental, it's more political. It's about called East Bloc. I think people remember and a lot of the material here is actually taken from public domain Soviet sci-fi footage. You can probably tell I'm a bit of a sci-fi buff or fanatic. And so we've edited that up, and I hope it's a cool song, but it's also got a message about political change in the East Bloc, the Berlin Wall falling. So if we could play East Bloc, please, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, is up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Roger, 0G, and I feel fine. Capsule is turning around.
Going throttle up.
Well, thank you. You can probably tell I'm playing with my little light here as well. Since we've only got a few minutes left, I'm going to not go with the rest of the videos. We've actually got some really good questions coming, so thank you for these. What's your favorite sustainable experience? Undoubtedly, with my engineering company, we got Shell Oil to become one of our main clients. I can't believe it that my little business got the biggest engineering company in the world, or one of them, to have me or my engineers go in and refit out their head office in Aberdeen, where we got their heating, cooling and ventilation systems out. And we got within an existing budget, refurbishment budget, we got a 60% cost saving and a 60% CO2 reduction, but even before we went to renewables. And the irony wasn't lost on us that we were working with, you know, where they're planning in their boardroom extraction of oil from the Antarctic, and we're in there making it sustainable. So that was, I think, my most enjoyable sustainable experience. How can youth use their voices? How can youth use music? Well, youth music and voices in climate change and how it can be heard is putting voices into tracks like we're doing, and by the movement of the voices, and then they get used to something positive like tree planting, can be a real signal. So we hope to popularize climate action through creation of biodiversity, and get kids behind it, because the antidote to anxiety is action. And here we go with some positive action. And you can see on the app where your trees are. Go and visit. You can learn about biodiversity. You can learn about soil carbon, all those various things. So it's a good engagement and a great teaching aid. What age groups do you find most engaged? Well, I've got to confess, when we played Shambhala Festival, we got stage rated by 7 to 11-year-olds. They just went nuts because we had a song all about animals, and somebody got up on stage with a toy tiger on their shoulder and was doing a rap on animals. The kids loved that. So yeah, young kids love it, but even big kids love it too. Yeah, so it's all ages, but young kids especially enjoy the fun. What group do you engage with most with Chant, and do you target particular age range? Oh, I just said that. I've had an incredibly, what's been your proudest moment? Well, I don't know. I mean, pride is a weird one. I hope I don't suffer from that illness too much. But I did an inventory a couple of years ago of my company and all the things that I did. I started back in 1988, and that project, which was Future Forests, it became the carbon neutral company, and then got VC funded. I don't really recognize it anymore, but the thing I started, if you look on their website, there's actually 3.3 million hectares supporting 840,000 people and benefiting 840,000 people and supporting all these 475 IUCN registered species. So I was pretty chuffed when I saw that. I was also very happy when I went out on a drive recently with my partner, and Michael Eavis jumped out of a hedge like an angry man with a stick, and I thought, oh help, a little gnome character's coming to get us, and he was smiling and really happy. He said, oh Dan, what about our trees? And so he remembers it from 25 years ago, and Michael and I are now going out to go on a road trip to visit all the Glastonbury Festival forests. So it's bringing the people back in that you really help get this whole movement going in the first place. And forestry and climate, it was a movement when it got going, when it was rock and roll, and when it was cool, it was really got going. And then it kind of got messed up when a lot of the political things happened and trees became out of favor because the NGO community didn't like offset, so there was the anti-tree people, and it was very complicated. And then the CDM system kicked in that failed, so a lot of people lost a lot of money. And then also, you rah, 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 I want to go carbon neutral. You used to plant trees with me, and rah, 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 now I'm making a trader rich at Chemical Bank or Citibank or whatever. And so the whole thing lost its vibe, which is where we're going back to our roots now. I think Joe Strummer, who some of the teachers may know here, but he was my really close friend, and he would turn up to the opening of an envelope and really got me going. And when he died, we planted Rebels Wood. I've collected saplings from Rebels Wood, and I've replanted them at Rockaway, which is an alternative culture site just outside Bristol, Temple Cloud, where we're planting what we're calling the punk food forest. And we're doing agroforestry and permaculture and creating food for kids that can come in and actually, so that's an ongoing project. So taking the saplings from my, co-founder, the person who got me going, was a wonderful thing. Yeah, that's the story of Chant. Chant Live is a cultural engagement. It was only ever a musical experiment that snowballed into what is now a main stage festival act. And brilliantly, we're on the next level with the app coming out. So if you could go onto Chant Live on our Facebook page and actually like us, well, I hope you like us, but if you could actually, if you want IM, and then you can get involved in the testing. It's already come out, as I said, last summer as a situationist art piece. So it's a digital artwork, and all the kids and all the teachers and everybody can get involved in loading their voice into our tracks and coming to our shows and getting our music back and joining into a community, and then we can update you on where your forests are. So the idea is it's a proactive call to action. And what can we do? We can plant some trees, and then we can do the tuning of the buildings and all the other things, but let's just plant trees. And that's me, all spoken out and done. So thank you very much. Oh, my glasses came off. Thank you.